So you should be open to the friend or foe vocab. Draw a squiggly line underneath the notes about author's purpose. And then write today's date, January 26th, 2021. And then we're going to start with number 7. Yes, Mason. Was what? We wrote notes about author's purpose.
Oh.
They weren't vocab words, they were just notes that we needed to be able to do our homework more easily. Yes, quickly.
How many vocab cards am I have to do?
There's 5. I'll have you do 3, and then Victoria, you'll do 2. You guys did administer 2, but I won't. Okay, so Cullen, you'll do the first 3. Victoria, you'll do the last 2. The first word is inhibit. Inhibit. I-N-H-I-B-I-T. How many syllables does inhibit have? Smith? Were you raising your hand for that?
I don't know if it's just me, but you're super blurry and super glitchy.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I don't really know what to do. So, because you guys look fine on my end.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know. So just do your best, okay? Maybe it's just lagging for a second. How many syllables are there in inhibit? Ethan? 3. Inhibit. I-N-H-I-B-I-T. Inhibit is a verb. And it means to slow down or hold someone or something up. So if you are inhibiting something, you're slowing it down or holding it up. Not holding it up like this, but stopping it from continuing. Inhibit. I-N-H-I-B-I-T. It is a verb, an action, and it means to slow down or hold someone or something up. You're slowing that person or that thing down. You're holding it up. Number 8 is the word coil. Coil. C-O-I-L. How many syllables are in the word coil? Victoria? Not 2. We don't say coil. What do we say? Aaron? Which is how many syllables? Coil. I don't say coil. Is that the word? Coil? It's coil. So how many times does my chin hit my hand? Class? Once.
One time.
Once.
Once.
So sometimes what we want to do is we want to make words longer than they are. We add extra syllables, but make sure you're not doing that. Because think about how you would actually say it. You wouldn't say coil, you would say coil. Smith, what's your question?
If you call on me to read, I might not be able to because my bathroom's getting renovated.
Okay.
And it's demo day, so it's super loud.
Okay. So coil, now you may have heard it as like a curly thing, like something that is really like curled up. That would be a noun, but in this case, Michaela, don't forget to mute yourself. But in this case, we're using it as a verb, which means to move in a circular or twisting way. So we know a coil is something that is like circular and twisted, kind of like a spiral. So to coil is a verb, meaning you move in a circular or twisting or spiral way. So coil can either be a noun or a verb. In this case, we'll be reading it as a verb, which means that something has moved in a circular or twisting way. What can you think of? What kind of animal do you think of that might move this way, that might coil? Mason, do you think it's a roadrunner because you know how it moves, or because that's the title of the book? Think of a roadrunner. Does a roadrunner move in a circular or twisting way? Or does it just like run? Aaron? So what do you think might move in a coil, like might coil around something? A snake, maybe. Because think of a snake's body. It's really long and bendy, so it could move. Could a roadrunner do that? No. Think if you've ever watched the cartoon with Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, how does Roadrunner move? What is Roadrunner? What animal is Roadrunner? What type of animal, I mean? Carla?
A bird.
A bird. Do birds move in circular, twisting ways? Or do they just kind of move like straight, or maybe even like they bounce like this? Not bounce, but they go up and down, but they don't really fly in circular, twisting ways. Okay, let's move on. We gotta move on.
I was going to say the thing.
That's okay. Number 9. So Colin, this is your last word. Is the word mesquite. Mesquite. How many syllables does mesquite have? Michaela?
2.
2. Mesquite. How many times does your chin hit your hand? Mesquite. 2. M-E-S is the first syllable. Mes, Q-U-I-T-E, heat is the second syllable. Mesquite is a noun. And it is a shrub, which means kind of like a small tree or bush. A shrub with thorns that grows in the southwestern United States. So mesquite is a noun, and it is a shrub, which is a small tree or a large bush with thorns that grows in the southwestern United States. Number 10 is the word yucca. Yucca. How many syllables is the word yucca? Carla?
2.
2. Yucca. Yucca. How many times does your chin hit your hand? Yucca. 2. Y-U-C-C is the first syllable. A is the second syllable. Yucca. Yucca is another noun. And it is a warm climate plant. A warm climate plant with long leaves, strong stems, beautiful strong stem, because it's just one plant, so it has one stem. With strong leaves, strong stem, and white flowers. That's a lowercase f that my hand, it was just an awkward angle, not a capital F. Because is flowers a common or a proper noun? Zadie. Common. It's not the specific name for anyone or anything. So yucca, Y-U-C-C-A, is a noun. It's a warm climate plant with long leaves, strong stem, and white flowers. We have those around here, actually. But they usually don't grow their flowers, I think, around here. Maybe it's too cool for them to grow their flowers. Okay, so I need to erase number 7 to fit number 11. Remember, Cullen, you have 7, 8, and 9. Victoria, you have 10 and 11. Last word, number 11, is ruckus. Ruckus. How many syllables does ruckus have? Mason? 2. Ruckus. Make sure your hand, my hand was just moving. Make sure your hand's not the thing moving. Ruckus. 2 syllables. My hand hits my hand twice. I'm sorry, my chin hits my hand twice. Notice how my hand is not moving. Ruckus. My chin is the only thing moving. So there's 2. R-U-C-K is the first syllable. U-S is the second syllable. Yes, Mason? Yes, it's one word. Ruckus is a noun. That means a lot of noise and activity. So if you are causing a ruckus, you are making a lot of noise, you are doing a lot of movement. Smith's bathroom renovation is causing a ruckus. It is a ruckus. There's a lot of noise and a lot of activity. Probably people moving around, all that. Okay, so once you're done with that, you can put your vocab notebook away. I'm going to pass out guided practice. Girls at home, you should already have it out. Everybody's book should be open to page 280. And you should have your guided practice there ready to fill out as we go. We're gonna go ahead and just do one paragraph at a time. That lets everybody read a little more, and then it's easier for the girls at home to follow along if we're only reading one paragraph at a time. But please make sure that you are being loud so that everyone can hear. Okay, Mason, go ahead. What is the genre of the story that we're gonna read today?
A folk tale is a story based on the legend of a...
Let's look at that word. A tradence. Does that make sense? Mason, does that make sense? Tradence? No. So let's look at that word. As you're reading, if you read a word and it doesn't make sense, go back and try again. Don't just keep going. Does that help you understand the story? Please don't rip my book. Otherwise, you have to buy it. And these are expensive because they're hard to find. When we keep reading quickly and we don't make sure that we read the words correctly or understand the words, then we can't understand the story or we can't understand what the sentence says. That's why I keep telling you. Stop at every period and make sure you can picture what's happening. If you can't picture what's happening, then you can't then go take a quiz on it and do well. You have to understand what you're reading. Reading the words is not the important part. Anybody can read the words. You have to understand what the words are telling you. That is reading comprehension. As a 4th grader, you need to be getting better and better at this. So let's look at this word. We're going to break it up every time we know our mouth is going to change. Our chin's going to have to go down. I have an I after a D. So I know My mouth is going to change shapes. Then I have some letters that when they go together, I know they don't sound like what they look like. I know I don't say tions or tions. I know that these letters together always make a certain sound. So, Mason, let's read it. Let's chunk it. This is what I mean when I say chunking. We're going to look at each piece separately, and then we're going to put them together. So, this first piece, this first chunk, how would I say that? Trade. Well, that would mean there's a silent E. Is there a silent E here? So would I say that A is a long A? No, it'd be a short A. So what does that say? If you have an attitude about it, you'll never be able to read it. How would you say this? Who's more willing to try? Let's see, Ethan, how would you say this?
Traditions.
Well, we're only looking at one piece at a time. Trad. Trad. How would you say this piece? I. We know when T-I-O-N is together, what does it sound like? Shun. And then if we add an S to the end, we say shuns. Trad. I. Shuns. Trad. I. Shuns. Now we know we wouldn't say that traditions, but it sounds a lot like what word, Ethan? Traditions. So, Cullen, please tell us the genre of this story.
A folk's tale is a story based on the traditions of people and
you skipped a word.
of a people or region, told by parents to children and then by the children to their children.
So folk tales are those types of stories that are passed down from generation to generation. They usually are based on a certain places or a certain group's traditions. Not necessarily just anything. It's usually based on their tradition. So this is a folk tale. We're going to be working on figuring out the author's purpose for writing this folk tale or for coming up with this folk tale. Colin, what are we going to find out by the time we finish the story?
What does the folk's tale teach you about life?
So we're going to figure out what are we going to learn by reading this folk tale? Usually folk tales teach you something. It's a story that teaches you something. There might be a moral to the story, or it might be how something started or how something came about. Colin, go ahead, read us the title and the author and the illustrator.
Roadrunner's Dance by Rhoda.
Chunk it. If we cover up the O, what does that kind of look like?
Rudolph.
Rudolph. Well, what if we added O? If an O comes at the end, it's almost always long O sound. So what would happen if we added a long O sound to the end of Rudolph? What would that name be? We're just adding the sound. So Rudolph with a long O at the end. Rudolph. What does long O sound like, Colin?
O.
So Rudolph, O. Put them together and how would you say that? Just put the sounds together.
Rudolph.
You didn't put the end sound. Rudolph, O. Squash them together so that they're smooth. So we don't say Rudolph, O, no pauses. So take out the pause, and what is that?
Rudolpho.
There you go.
By Rudolfo and Anna.
Not Anna. You skipped a syllable.
Anya.
You're still skipping a syllable. We know when we get to these letters say a sound. They have a sound all by themselves. So our chin is going to have to change positions to get to here. And then we know that this has a sound all of its own. So these are 3 different sounds.
And
When A and Y are together, they always sound like what?
A.
When A is all by itself, it always sounds like what?
A.
When it's all by itself.
Oh, A.
When it's all by itself.
A farm.
Sometimes we also say
A farm.
so.
And oh, A. And A. A. Oh, and A. Yeah.
Now smooth it out, take out the pauses. And A, yeah. If we take out the pauses, it sounds like,
And A.
there you go. So when I say smooth it out, I mean take out the pauses. Maybe that's what I mean, okay? Okay, so try that again.
By Rudolph Anna. Illustrated by David Dizza.
You're switching the letters around. It's A-Z, not Z-A. So not Dizza, but
Dizza.
you're switching, you put the Z where the A is and the A where the Z is. Z-A would say Z, but A-Z would not say Z. A-Z would say what?
As.
So,
Did as.
you added a D.
Did
If it-
as.
Okay, D-as, die-as, di-as, something. Okay, so make sure when you're reading, don't flip-flop letters. Read the letters that are there. Look for those phonics rules that you learned a long time ago. Remember you learned, what were they, like diphthongs and things like that back in 1st grade. That will help you read. You know if you see A-Y, what is it almost always going to sound like? Class.
A.
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 You know if you see A by itself, it's almost always going to sound like a or maybe A. You know T-I-O-N, if it's together, is almost always going to sound like shun. So look for those phonics rules. Look for those letters that you know almost always sound a certain way when they're together. If when you smooth it out and take out those pauses, it still doesn't sound right, we'll try another sound that you know those letters can make. That's what we have to do. You have to use your phonics skills to read new words. That's why you learn phonics, so that then you can read new words. Because is it possible to use every single word in English as a spelling word or a vocabulary word in school? No. So you have to be able to come across brand new words and be able to use your phonics rules and context clues to figure out what the words are. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. And Michaela, please read next, loud and slow.
Hitted, snake
No,
as
not hitted. Cover up ED. What is that word?
his,
Now if we add ED to the end, we know most of the time we don't say ed, we just say duh.
hissed,
There you go.
hissed snake as he slithered out of his hole by the side of the road. He
Cover up D, and what is that word?
bar,
Not bar. It means there's nothing there. It's a word that means there's nothing there.
bear,
So if we add the D sound to the end, we get,
bared.
okay, so start that sentence again.
He bared his face
No, go slow.
and frightened a family walking from
Nope.
the cornfield.
Michaela, slow down. You're just quickly guessing a lot of these words instead of reading. I know you know the words. You just have to slow down and read them instead of just guessing what comes next. You're not guessing at the word, you're guessing what comes next. But we don't have to guess what comes next because we have them here to read. So start that sentence again. He bared
his fangs and frightened a family walking home from the cornfield.
Keep going.
The mother threw his basket.
No, not his. Remember, don't guess what comes next. Read what comes next.
The mother threw her basket full of corn in the air. The children froze without fright.
Not without fright. The
With
children.
fright.
The children.
The children froze with fright.
So do you guys see how when I make you go back, you read the word exactly correctly? It's not because you don't know the words, you don't know how to read them. It's what you're doing is you're just reading and your brain is guessing the word that comes next. Like without even looking at the word that comes next, your brain is just saying it's from. But it's not. So read it. We don't have to guess what word comes next because we have it right here. Read the next word. Don't let your brain guess what comes next without even looking at it. Read it before you guess. Okay, read that last sentence, or that next sentence, and then pause.
Father, the children called. The father came running.
Okay, so the first word of this story is a hissing sound. Michaela, don't forget to mute. Who remembers what, did we do this? I think we did. We did this. What it's called when we make a word to mean a sound. What is that type of figurative language? When we use a word to represent a sound. It's a long word and starts with an O. Aaron? Automatopoeia. Does a snake actually go around going hiss, hiss, hiss? No, it doesn't actually say that, but that's what it sounds like. So the first word of this story was automatopoeia for the sound a snake makes. Did you expect a story to start out with a sound an animal makes? Would you expect a story that you're reading in your textbook to start with an animal sound? No, I didn't. But did it grab your attention? Did you want to be like, what? Why is there just a bunch of S's? Did it make you want to keep reading? Especially if you like snakes. Or even if you don't like snakes, but you're fascinated by them. You want to figure out, why are we hearing this? Why are we seeing a bunch of S's together? Why are we hearing a S sound as the very first word? Now, think about a snake speaking. Is that normal? Can a snake talk? No. Let's keep reading. Let's think about that and keep reading. Zari, please read next.
Snake threatened. Come away, the father said, and the family took another path home. I am the king of the road, Snake boasted. No one may use the road without my permission. That evening, the people of the village gathered together and spoke to the elders.
So what did the snake just do? Zadie.
It just talked.
It just talked. Is this story going to be realistic? No, because in real life, can a snake ever talk? It can't. So we already know that right away, this story is not going to be true. It's not going to be fiction. It's not going to be nonfiction. It's definitely going to be fiction. Now let's think of what the snake said. What does that tell you about the snake? What type of person is the snake? Mason? Mean. A bully. In real life, are snakes bullies? Are they? Do they do things because they are mean? Or do they just do things because that's how they're protecting themselves and getting their food? In real life, do snakes know that how they're acting is mean? No. So again, is that realistic? A snake being a bully, is that realistic? No. So let's go ahead. We already know what the snake is like. Let's go ahead and add this clue to our author's purpose map. We know that snakes can't talk or be bullies. Now that happened right away. In a lot of stories, do we usually know whether somebody is a bully right away yet? Or does it take a few different actions to find out that they're a bully? Smith?
It takes a few different actions.
It takes a few different actions, but this time the author is like telling you right away. So another clue, another thing we can add is the author gets right to the story, because we can already say, who do you think is going to be a main character in this story? From the very first page of this story, who do you think is probably going to be a main character? Cullen.
The snake.
The snake. And do you think he's going to be the good guy or the bad guy in this story?
The bad guy.
The bad guy. So we already know. The author is getting us right into the story with a snake that talks and is mean. Victoria, please read next, loud and slow.
We are afraid of being bitten by a snake, they protested. He acts as if the road belongs only to him. The elders agreed that something should be done. And so the following morning, they went to
Now that's a word we read in religion. Let's chunk it. Where do you think the sound completely changes?
Scared.
Where do you think the sound, what letters do you think the sound completely changes? Or between what letters do you think the sound completely changes?
I think C and R change.
Okay, we can try that. How would we say that?
Scat.
You skip. SCA would say scat, but this is SAC. So we wouldn't say scat, we would say, okay, there's no C. You're putting a C sound between the S and the A. Is there a C sound between the S and the A? So what would SA say? Sack. Now add C to the end. Sack.
Sacred.
Well, let's Go step by step. Sack,
Red.
red. Now take out the pause, and what do you have? Sack, red. Take out the pause. Sacred. Now, is that a word? No. So we're walking through this step by step. Because after you sound it out, you may have something like sacred. We know that's not a word, but Victoria, what does sacred sound like that we know is a word? Sacred. Okay, so do you see the process? You chunk it, you sound it out, smooth it out, that means take out the pause, and then think, is that a word or does it sound like a word? I know. So start that sentence again. Come, please pay attention. You don't need to worry about that right now. The elders. The elders.
The elders agreed that something should be done. And so the following morning they went to Sacred Mountain, where Desert Woman lived. She had created the desert animals, so surely she could help.
Okay. Please read next. Smith. Oh, are you able to read right now?
Yes, it's not that loud.
Okay.
Please do something about Snake, the elders said. He makes visiting our neighbors and going to our fields impossible. He frightens the children. Desert Woman thought for a long time. She did not like to interfere in the lives of the people and animals, but she knew that something must be done. I have a solution, she finally said.
So in that paragraph that Smith just read, it says that Desert Woman doesn't like to interfere in the lives of people and animals. So she doesn't like to get in the way. She doesn't like to get in the middle of it. But then she says she's going to here. Why would she change her mind about interfering with people and animals? Why do you think she's changing her mind and saying, okay, I'll help you with this? Instead of doing what she normally does, which is like, this is between you, I'm not getting in the middle, I'm not interfering. Why is she changing her mind, do you think? Does it say why she changed her mind? So what are we doing? Class?
Make it inference.
Making an inference. So make an inference. Why is she deciding to get involved? Zadie?
Because she knows the snake could be dangerous, and so she doesn't want anybody to get hurt.
Okay, she doesn't want anybody to get hurt. Aaron?
Because the snake is bothering the people and they can't get food and they can't visit their neighbors.
Okay, so how is the snake acting? Rude? Unfair? Do you think he should be allowed to stop people from getting food or getting to see their family members? No. Okay, Michaela, don't forget to mute. It's very quiet there, but every once in a while we just hear a little. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the page and read next. Zadie, loud and slow.
Dressed in a flowing gown, she traveled on a summer cloud across the desert to where the snake slept, under the shade of a rocky ledge.
Whoa, what did she just do? Tell me in your own words what she just did. Cullen?
She rode on a summer cloud to where the snake lives.
Can people ride on clouds? Why? What would happen if you did happen to somehow be able to get on top of a cloud? What would happen? Mason? You'd fall straight through because clouds are just what? Zari?
Water.
Water. And think about it in a pool. Do you sit on top of the pool? Like when you jump into a pool, do you just end up standing on top of it? No, what happens? You sink right through. And clouds are even less water. So again, is this story realistic? Are we reading facts, do you think? No. Now the author seems very like, I know this is true, here it is. But even if it sounds like a fact, if it's not true, is it a fact? Ethan, do you have a comment? says, to me, it sounds like he's entertaining. Should we say right now, oh, I already know the author's purpose, I can stop? No, because what if, these are just the first 3 pages. What if he starts talking about giving us facts or starts persuading us of something? So should we say right now what the author's purpose is?
No.
But is it a good idea to start thinking, I think this might be it? Yeah. Okay. Zadie, keep going.
You will let people know when you are about to strike, Desert Woman. Desert Woman said sternly. And so she placed a rattle on the tip of Snake's tail.
So what do you think this folk tale is teaching us about, or telling us about? Mason? What about, specifically about rattlesnakes? Victoria?
That they can be very dangerous and they're going to warn you before.
Okay, but think about it. Does it sound like the rattlesnake had a rattle before this all happened? So what are we finding out about? What happened? Smith?
How he got his rattle.
How rattlesnakes got their rattles. Now think about it. You've probably heard stories like that. Like how, oh gosh, what am I thinking of? There was a story I loved when I was little that you guys probably haven't, but it was called like how the rhinoceros got his skin. So rhinoceri, whatever, used to be real smooth. But then one day, this rhinoceros stole a cake from this man, and so he used to be able to take his skin off, like he had buttons. And he could take it off and go swimming, like they were clothes. But then he ate this man's cake, and this man was real mad. So one day, while the rhinoceros was swimming, this man whose cake he had stolen came in and put cake crumbs and sand and all this stuff inside the rhinoceros's skin. And it was really itchy. So the rhinoceros put his skin back on, and then he was really itchy. So he was rubbing against like trees and rocks, and the buttons came off, so he couldn't get it off. And what happens when you rub something over and over again? What happens to that thing? It gets what? It gets wrinkly. And now look at a rhinoceros. Its skin is wrinkly and rough. But is that actually how a rhinoceros got his skin? No. That's not a real story. So this folk tale is telling us how the rattlesnake got his rattle. Is this literally how the rattlesnake got his rattle? Probably not. Okay, keep reading. Ethan, loud and slow.
Now you are a rattlesnake. When anyone approaches you, will rattle and warn. This way they will know you are near enough. Convinced she had done the right thing, Desert Woman walked on the rainbow back to her home and secret mountain.
How did she get here? Mason. On a cloud. How is she getting back? Ethan. On a rainbow. Is that realistic? No. No. Is a rainbow even something that we can actually find the end of? Like, can we go up and be like, oh, here's where the rainbow starts? No, because it's just the way you're looking. The angle that you're looking at rain falling through the air. That's what a rainbow is. You can't touch it because the closer you get to it, you're not really getting closer to it. It moves as you move. It's like a mirage, except it's actually there. It's just the way the light and your eyes look at water. So, can you even touch a rainbow? No. You can see it. But every time you move, it's going to move too, or it's going to go away, depending on the angle you're looking at that water in the air. Okay. Go ahead and read next. Me. However, instead of inhibiting Rattlesnake, the rattle only made him more threatening. He coiled around, shaking his tail and baring his fangs. Remember, baring, or no, not remember, but baring here means showing. Or like when Michaela read, he bared his fangs earlier. It means he showed his fangs. Look at me, Rattlesnake said to the animals. I rattle and hiss, and my bite is deadly. I am king of the road, and no one may use it without my permission. So did what desert woman did what desert woman do work? No. What was it supposed to do? Giving Snake the rattle was supposed to do what? Zari.
Was supposed to warn people, like, don't get close to me, stay away, or else you'll get bit in.
It was supposed to try to keep.
Or it meant.
Go ahead.
Or it meant that if you don't get away from me, like, I will threaten the whole city and everything.
So it was supposed to warn people to stay away. It was supposed to make Rattlesnake stay away from people. But what happened instead? What happened instead? We still have 10 minutes. Aaron.
It just made him more threatening.
It made him more threatening. It made him feel like even more of a bully. Like, ooh, now I get to scare people even more. Because before I only scared them in the moment when they noticed me. But now I get to scare them before they even see me because now they can hear me and get scared. So it just made him even more of a bully. Now, how do you feel about this story at this point? Are you like, okay, I know the end. I'm done. Michaela.
It's entertaining.
But it's entertaining. Why? Well, why do you want to keep reading? Are you just like, I know everything, I'm done, I don't need to read anymore?
No, because it's kind of interesting.
And so what do you want to do now? Why do you want to keep reading?
I want to figure out all the details.
So you want to figure out what happens next. So the way these things are happening, the sequence of events, remember sequence of events means the order that things are happening, makes you want to know what's going to happen next. So we can add that as a clue. Because an author's purpose is to get you to keep reading, right? Whatever the purpose is, they want to make you keep reading. And right now, the way things are happening, the sequence of events is making you want to find out what happens next. If you stop reading, can you do that? No. So is the author doing what he is intending to do, getting you to keep reading? Yes. So, the sequence of events makes the reader want to know what will happen next. Remember, whether an author is writing something to inform, to persuade, or to entertain, what does he always want you to do, or she? What does he or she always want to do, whether he or she is informing you, entertaining you, or persuading you? What does the author always want you to do? Michaela.
They want you to read the book.
They want you to read the whole thing. If you read part of it and you're like, I'm done, I'm not going to finish this, is the author doing what they want to do? No. So we know whatever the author's purpose is, it always leads to making you want to read more and to finish. Let's see. Zadie, if you're done, will you open the door all the way? Just so we can see if Coach Jay comes, and we'll keep reading while we wait. Yes.
That marker was the old one.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
And I just didn't throw it
And
away.
you didn't throw it away or make the mark.
Okay, so let's go to the next page. And please read next. Carla, loud and slow.
Now the animals.
Carla, hold on. When you take your headphones off, can you not hear me? Or can you still hear me when you take the headphones off?
I'm still able to hear you.
Okay, just making sure.
Now the animals went to the desert woman to complain. The owl said, greeting the desert woman with respect. Since you gave Rattlesnake his rattle, he is even more of a pig. He will not let anyone use the road. Please take away his fame and rattle. What I give, I cannot take away, the woman said. When Rattlesnake comes hissing and threatening, one of you must take him. One of you must make him behave.
Okay. Let's see. Go ahead and read next. Aaron, loud and slow, please. I think you read earlier and it was good. So stay as loud as you were earlier. I think it was you. No, but it was a while ago and you read much louder than you usually do.
She looked at all the animals.
Louder.
She looked at all the animals assembled. The animals looked at one another. They looked up, they looked down, but not one looked at the desert.
Why did none of them look at Desert Woman? She just said that one of them has to make Rattlesnake behave. Why are none of them looking at her? Ethan? They're afraid of what? So why are they not looking at her? If they look at her, what are they afraid is going to happen? So they're afraid that one of them, that if they look at her, she's going to pick that animal to make Rattlesnake behave. It's like when I ask a question in math class and none of you even look at my face. You look at the book, you look over here, you look at your hand, you look anywhere but here, because what are you hoping will happen if you don't look at me? Zari?
That you won't call on us.
You won't call, I won't call on you, but guess what? If nobody looks at me, I'll just pick a stick. So, it's not sneaky. Okay. If you help me, together we can make a guardian of the road, Desert Woman said. I will form the body, and each of you will bring a gift for our new friend. She gathered clay from the sacred mountain and wet it with water from a desert spring. Working quickly but with great care, she molded the body. So earlier we said this was going to be a story about how Rattlesnake got his rattle. But is that the whole point of the story? What else do you think this story is going to tell us? Not only how Rattlesnake got his rattle, but what else? You may not know specifics, and that's okay. Zadie.
But how the Roadrunner was created.
Maybe how the Roadrunner was created. It doesn't say anything about a Roadrunner. Why do you think it's a Roadrunner, Zadie? I know it looks like an animal is going to be created, but why do you think it's going to be a Roadrunner? I know you know why. That's not a common animal, and that's okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. Why do you think it's a Roadrunner and not like any other animal on the planet?
Because, well, first, the title.
The title of the story is what?
The Roadrunner's Dance.
Roadrunner's Dance. And we can tell she's going to create a new animal. And if you remember, back when we read the story A Walk Through the Desert, we read a little caption about a Roadrunner and what they do. What do they scare away? What do Roadrunners scare away? Victoria?
They scare away foes, like little snakes.
Snakes. Okay, guys, we will finish tomorrow. So keep that in mind, and we'll finish this story tomorrow. Okay, go ahead, put your guided practice in your book as a bookmark. Close it, it, put it away, stand up, push your chair in. Yes, Michaela?